Hello and welcome back to the Yarn Parlor. If you're new, then welcome to the Yarn Parlor. My name is Allison. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as alevitt1. Today is Wednesday, the 5th. Yes, the 5th. I normally record on Tuesdays, but yesterday was really gray and it's still kind of hazy today, but it's like extremely bright. It's episode 12. This is my knitting, spinning, and knitwear design podcast. And what else do I normally say? You can find the show notes in our Ravelry group. And today I'm going to talk about a knitting expat topic, machine knitting, my research topic for April, show you my April yarns for my challenges, and new whips, spinning, and a video from the Shuk in Israel, where I'm filming from. And yeah, that's my intro. I would like to first say a huge thank you to anybody who bought bags from my Etsy store. I just had a grand opening this weekend and it was extremely exhilarating for me. I was grinning like a fool the whole weekend. Have always wanted to own a business. I read up on it for like years. I've read about owning my own business, and even though it's a simple Etsy store, I was always scared to even start something like that, but it was so easy. Etsy makes it really easy to put together something, and it just really meant a lot to me for my first sales. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of my first customers for purchasing bags. I don't plan to turn this into Allison's Etsy store podcast, but I did just want to acknowledge those, my first customers. So thank you very, very much. And on to the knitting expat topic that I wanted to talk about. So Mina from the Knitting Expat, she spoke about this in her last podcast, saying that she was talking with somebody on Instagram about how they were saying they were scared of knitting brioche, was the example. And she wanted to talk about how she doesn't understand how people can be scared of knitting a new technique. Now, and then asked others what they thought about that topic. I agree with Mina because I don't think anybody should be scared of trying out a new technique. But I also come from a knitting and sweaters background. I like this stuff. I geek out with knitting, really. I would go to Barney's in New York on the weekends and look at sweater construction. Like, I get so into it. I want to recreate stitch patterns and I want to know how to do this in hand knitwear if it was machine done. And like, I really geek out with this stuff. So I don't get scared of trying out a new technique. The big but in this whole topic, I think, is that I was scared to start an Etsy store. The simplest way of selling goods. I was scared to do that. And there are people out there who are like, why would you be scared? What are you scared of? And it's failure. People are scared to fail, to make mistakes, especially with knitwear, spending so much time in knitting a product and then messing it up, wasting time on stuff like this. So I think that, so I worry about everything. I worry about so many things. And my husband is always like, why are you worried about this? Like with the Etsy store, what are you so worried about? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid is going to happen? And I give him this is what could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, my laundry list of all of these failures that could happen. And he just spouts out all of the answers to those. Well, you would handle it this way, you would handle it this way, and then he'll just kind of look at me and be like, why don't you tackle these things when it happens? Why don't you just wait, try it, and then figure it out as you're going along? And I'm just like, this is coming from the man who is like not scared of anything. And if he doesn't know the answer, he goes out and educates himself. I'm a huge believer in knowledge is power. And I wanted to mention Mina's topic in my podcast because I like to try and do that in my podcast. I try to stay away from teach because I'm not a step-by-step tutorial type of person. But I do want to share information with you guys. I do want my viewers to be excited and inspired to try something new, to do something different. So I wanted to bring that up here to hopefully have you guys not fear doing something, trying out a new knitting technique, or bringing to light something that you had never heard of before that you want to try. So I think a lot of people believe that knowledge is power, but some people don't act on that because fear is also very strong. It will deter people from doing the simplest things. So I agree with Mina in that I don't think people should be scared to try new techniques, but I also want people to know that the fear of trying something new because you're going to mess up, because you're going to waste time, try a small swatch. Like with the brioche stitch, try a small swatch of brioche. There are plenty of resources out there to help people. I'm starting my topic a month reference library to help put together links to try and solve these fears and problems. So if you do a small swatch, it's not wasting that much time and you're learning a new technique. I mean, that's pretty empowering. So I just wanted to say that everybody makes mistakes. It happens. When I was typing these show notes, or after I finished typing my show notes and my opinion on this topic, I was watching some other podcasters, and they had made some mistakes in their projects, but they either didn't want to show it or were extremely embarrassed to show their mistakes. So I've been guilty of it too. I think there were a couple times on this podcast where I was like, there's a mistake there, don't look at it. But I'm going to start showing off my mistakes because people can learn from my mistakes. I made a mistake in my brioche, which I won't be showing today, but in my exploration station, but I'm going to, next week when I show you guys, I'll show you where I made the mistake. I actually still don't even know how to correct it. It was at the ends when you have to like wrap the yarn around. I got confused, apparently, because there are a couple places where I have this like little green stitch out of line, and in other places it's not there. So I don't know what happened. So that may not help with the learning process, but mistakes happen. So I've decided that I'm going to start showing you guys the mistakes that I make because we can either learn from them or maybe it will help you get over your fear because everybody makes mistakes. We're not perfect. So that is my opinion on being scared of trying a new technique in knitting. I hope this inspires you to not be scared. For my April topic, I'm going to research the brioche stitch because I had to do it for my exploration station. And so I'm going to research different tutorials and videos that have helped people write down what helped me, research increases and pattern stitches for brioche, and any, not any books, because I would like it to be more of something that has helped you or has helped me with this type of technique. So I didn't use any books, but I will compile and research this month brioche stitch, and at the end of the month I'll go over what I found and add the pages into the Ravelry group. And if you guys have any links that helped you, any tutorials and whatnot, you can add them in there at the end of the month as well. On to machine knitting. So I first started machine knitting in college, and for my senior collection I mostly knit my fashion show collection, and I really enjoyed it. So I have 3 knitting machines. 2 were bought in the last year and 1 that I've had ever since college. I bought the same machine that I used in college, which is the silver, all 3 of them are silver reed. And the first one is the LK150. It's a pretty basic machine, and all of these machines are domestic. They're not an industrial knitting machine. The LK150 is a plastic bed with metal needles, and the other 2 are all metal. So they're a bit stronger and more precise with their knitting as well. The LK150 does everything from like a fingering weight to a chunky weight yarn, and the other ones are strictly fine gauge. So I think it's almost like sport or fingering weight and lower. So they're definitely geared more towards a finer gauge. And so I like the LK150. It is a basic machine, but that's what I learned on, it's what I know. So I really like using that one. And the other 2, like I said, I bought last year, and I didn't really get to use them that much. I did some swatches to get to know the machine. I was very excited when they came, obviously, so I had to try them out. And I gotta stop doing that. I'm gonna be like flipping my hair. So I was only able to do some swatches, and then my husband and I were moving out of our rental apartment into our permanent home here. And so we were moving, we moved the machines, and I haven't used them since. So I really want to use the machines more and help with my stash busting. So hopefully it will be able to crank out some of that stuff faster. I like using the machines because they're fast, but it's not necessarily because I can knit a whole sweater in a weekend. It's because I can knit a sweater, write the pattern, knit the sweater, fit the sweater, rewrite the pattern, and knit the sweater again so it fits perfectly in a quicker manner. And I understand that still means that because I'm knitting fast, but it's more about the fit of a garment, because with my professional background, that's what I did, is that I fit clothes and I fixed problems. So anytime I throw on clothes, my eye goes straight to the problem and I know how to fix it. So I can't wrap my brain around, I haven't hand knit a sweater yet. Confessions of a knitter. I will be hand knitting a sweater this year, multiple, I hope, for my own designs. It will happen. But I don't like the idea of spending months and months hand knitting a sweater to realize that my gauge changed, my sweater's too big, it doesn't fit right, I seamed it poorly and now it looks terrible. I mean, for those reasons and more, there have been so many knitters around the world that just don't wear their hand knits. I can't imagine spending months on a sweater and then being like, oh, it doesn't fit right. In the closet it goes, never to be worn again. I can't do it. I like being able to knit a sweater, correct my fit issues, and knit a sweater again in like 4 to 5 days. Anyway, so I will hand knit a sweater eventually this year, but for right now, I love my machines. I wanted to show you guys some swatches that I've made on the machines, and then next time hopefully I can show you some of the sweaters that I've already made on the machine, and maybe hopefully some progress. But if I don't get to it this week to show next week, I will definitely be knitting in April on my machines. So this is the same yarn, and this is a gauge swatch. So what I do is for each hole, that's the number of the gauge that I used. And you can see that, I hope you can see, it's looser here, and then it gets tighter and tighter. But that's plain stockinette. And I have done, this is a tuck stitch that I did in college when I was first learning how to use the machines. And there's the back. Here's one when I was playing around with what I wanted to do with this yarn. There's stripes, another tuck stitch. What's that? Some more tuck stitch, I guess, different pattern. And then some random eyelet lace playing around pattern. Here's a drop stitch swatch that I actually used to make garments out of. This is a lace pattern that I'm holding it upside down. So I saw this pattern in a fashion magazine and really loved it. This swatch is kind of old, so it's not quite blocked, but it's like out of this silk yarn that I repurposed. It's really beautiful. There is one mistake on one of these lower ones. Where is it? Is it over here? Yeah, I think it's this one. One of these is not like the other. And then these last two are ones that I want to actually produce and work on in April. This was my swatch. So there it goes from looser to a tighter gauge. And I think I actually want to use the purl side as my face of the fabric. It's this linen yarn. I'll go over yarns next time, I swear. And then this one is the other one that I will be using. I really wanted to use this eyelashy yarn, and I didn't know how to use it or incorporate it into something, so I started machine knitting with it, and I've got this stripe, but this is the pattern that I want to do. It's another tuck stitch. And then this one was plaiting, which is where you put one yarn in front of the other when you're knitting, and so it comes out more on the face and less on the back of the swatch. That's getting really blown out. So there's the back, and then the front, it's more visible because it lays on top of the base yarn, if you will. But here's the tuck stitch from the back. Peeking. Okay. So that is what I plan to work on with my machine knitting in April. And maybe next episode I will share some of the garments I made so far. On to my April yarns. My hair's driving me crazy. Okay, so the April yarns for, about to say April, for my sock challenge, I picked this 3 Irish girls. It's called Octopus's Garden. And it is Glenhaven Cashmerino fingering, which is 80% cashmere, 80% merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. I need more coffee, apparently. And it's awesome. So I found this yarn. Oh, it's getting really blown out. It's really bright today. So I found this yarn when I was watching At the Corner of Knit and Tea with Laura, the podcast At the Corner of Knit and Tea. She made a pair of socks out of this yarn, which is Lorna's Lace's Cabbage Key. She made the monkey socks. They were amazing, and I wanted it. I needed to have it. It came out, that's way blown out. My lighting is too bright today. This natural lighting. This is really saturated. This is more of like a dull yellowy green. It's showing up really bright. Anywho. So I needed this yarn, and it sold at a good yarn. What is it? A good yarn, in Sarasota. Both of these are exclusive colorways. So I was looking for this one, and I found it, and then I found more yarn. And Octopus's Garden was based off of the owner of A Good Yarn. Her husband is a diver, and he takes photos. Marine photographer, maybe is the title of that profession. And he had this one photo of an octopus surrounded by, I think it's coral or some marine-y thing. And they have yarn companies dye to match the photograph, and they put it as one of their exclusive colorways. So I had to get this one as well. And at that time, I didn't have an MCN, so I wanted to get this one in the MCN base, which is perfect. So for my April socks, I wanted to either do Hermione's Everyday Socks, because I haven't done that pattern yet, or Vanilla is the New Black, because it has this cool ribbed looking heel and toe, and you can make those socks reversible, which I thought was kind of a cool bonus, because I don't have anywhere the knit socks with the knit on the inside, so I thought that would be something interesting to try. So I will cast these on and work on those. From other people's knitting using this yarn, some of the base colors, like more of like these pinks, can create a pooling pattern. Because to me it looks like it's just kind of like a speckled yarn, but there are definite chunks in here of color. So, there. So it can pool with, I think it was more of the pinks and the rosy colors that created more of like a pooling effect. But I like pooling, don't have a problem with that. So, but that was just something I observed from other people's projects. The challenge yarn is Captiva, Barocco Yarns Captiva, which is what I'm using for my design right now. And I have this color I bought last year. And here it is in skein. So they're 50 gram skeins. 50 gram skeins, 98 yards. It's listed as an Aran weight because it's so stiff. And what I found that a lot of people use this yarn for small accessories like a headband. Somebody even used it as just knit an eye cord for a necklace. And other people made the golden snitch out of it, which I thought was really cool. But it's either small accessories or larger, oversized, like a poncho or an oversized shirt, because it's not a soft yarn, but it's not itchy. It's just really stiff, so it's not something that feels amazing next to your skin. I mean, it's not itchy, but it's a stiffer yarn, which is why it's listed as an Aran weight, because it's quite thin. But you have to use larger needles. Same with my design. I'm using US 7s because it's just so stiff to bend around. Tighter stitches would make it like armor, basically. So I have a lot of this yarn and I didn't know what to do with it. That's why I am actually designing with it right now. But I'm using plain stockinette for my design, and I really wanted to use more of, thinking about getting into more of a textured yarn. So I think I might try the sequence knitting book to get an easy, simple textured pattern from. Also cables, I'll try some cables. And there are a lot of lace knit patterns with this, but it's more of a mesh lace. So I'm thinking about trying a lace pattern that's more, I don't know, maybe like feminine is a good word to describe it, or just not mesh is a good way to describe it. So that's my ideas for working with the Captiva. And I won't do a stockinette for this month's yarn challenge because I am working in stockinette in my design. I already know what it looks like. I think that's it for these. Oh, the other colorway that I have is patina. Which is really, it's like this pretty olivey golden green type of thing. This one is mascarpone. That's the colorway I'm going to be working with. The content is, that would be nice, right? The content is 60 cotton, 23 polyester, 17 acrylic. And so the base is cotton, and then it's wrapped around with, I don't know if this is going to show, it's wrapped around with shiny polyester, acrylic type of thread. So that is April's yarn. Moving on to whips. I have all new, I shouldn't say all new whips. I have 2 new whips. Oh, for my socks, sorry. I'm trying out I'm trying to use new needles for my 12 months of socks. And I'm either going to use the Nova Cubics or a 9-inch Chowgu. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you know what they look like. So I haven't decided. I do kind of miss working on DPNs because my past couple socks I've been using Magic Loop, but I'm really intrigued by this one, using a 9-inch circular. So I don't know. Either one of those. That's what I'm going to use for my April socks. So my first whip is not this one, it's the other one. Housed in my Fat Squirrel Speaks bag from Amy Beth. I was able to snag one of her library card bags in her second run of the bags. I think she did her first run in like September maybe last year, and then a second run around November, and I got it November. So I got real antsy this past weekend. I needed something new. I needed to cast on things. I have 3 projects, and I call myself a monogamous knitter with 3 projects. I needed more. So I cast on, why did I stop in the middle of a row? I cast on Fringe. It's a Stephen West pattern, and it's supposed to be in DK, but I decided to use worsted because that's what I had. And I saw a couple worsted projects in the projects pages, and I fell in love. It's going to be enormous, and it's going to have tons of fringe, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. So this is Genie Hedgehog Fibers merino singles. It is 100% superwash, 100 grams, 220 meters. I gotta figure out how to, it is really bright out. I didn't think it was this bright. Maybe yesterday would have been a better day with the gray hazy skies. This is the same colorway as my doodler. This one doesn't have, the doodler seems to have more of like an orange background. This one has, I don't know. Seems like there's more green, but maybe not. Anywho, I'm also planning on using this Haute knit yarn. They have she has a shop on Etsy. I'm gonna see how this Genie knits up because it's my first color. I like this this is more of like a tealy green, greenish blue. But I do have more of this like swampy green. I have a single merino and silk that's more of a swampy color that might go better. I'll see how it knits up, but I like this one. This is actually a DK weight, but it seems the same thickness as the worsted. But this is 240 yards, 100 grams, 100% superwash merino. And then I have the neon peach. And as I picked these colors out, I'm like, oh yeah, these will go great. And the neon peach was gonna be, I was gonna do it in this kind of a colorway. Stripes of starting with this, and then a chunk of this, and then this would be my last stripe section. And I'm like, oh yeah, those are gonna be great. And then as I'm knitting on it, I realized that this is the Genie color from my doodler. And then I realized that I tried to put neon peach with my Genie in the doodler and I hated it. So I'm like, what? Why do my eye just gets drawn to putting these 2 yarns together, and now I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. We'll see how it all comes together. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny that I just put those colors together again, setting myself up to fail. So, like I said, this is the first color, and then I'm going to pick a green that goes best with this when this section is knit up, and then maybe I'll just go for it because they're not, the neon peach and this colorway won't really be touching anywhere on the scarf. So maybe it'll work out better. Unless I do, like with the fringe, it's got this Stephen West pattern has like the whole thing is just covered in fringe. The whole edge. So the fringe bits might have the 2 colors touching, or will have the 2 colors touching because the orange will be the last color, but maybe it'll work out. I'm sure it'll be fine. My next project is also new, and it's the Garter Goodness by, you guessed it, Stephen West. I just started this one, so I only have the first triangle bit. Let me get that. And this main color is People Who Field Sinister. I think the full name is Sinister Belly Buster. Because she has a bunch of different belly buster colors, and this one is a bit darker in the shades. And it is right here. That looks good. And it's 100% superwash merino, fingering weight. And here it is caked up. I'll show you all the different ways. Now, what I'm planning to do with this one is stripe it, using this as the base, and then I'm going to stripe it with these 4 colors. Whoa, that orange. Wow. Let me see if I can get... So I'm going to do the yellow first, then the orange, then the pink, then the green. Kind of a rainbowy color. And different stripe heights, just kind of play around with the stripes. And then the border will be, everything is all tangled, this purple at the very end. I'm doing this as a gift. I know you're gonna laugh at me, but I'm starting my Christmas knitting. Because every year when I decide that I'm going to knit Christmas presents, it's always way too late, and I end up doing like really chunky presents because they're fast and easy. Only nobody really wears chunky knits. So I wanted to start my Christmas knitting early so that I can give a gift that I enjoyed knitting and didn't rush through. And it's that kind of knit where you can really see the time and effort and love put into it. Not that chunky knits aren't a love knit, but I know that it was fast, and I know that I ran out of time, and that's the reason they got a chunky knit. So I'm working on this as a Christmas present. It's way too soon, but I had to. And this is being held in one of my oops bags. I like this shape, but I'm having a hard time with the corners. So it just didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. So I get an oops bag. And then my last project is, should I go over? I should go over the yarns. Sorry, I feel like I'm zooming through this. Okay, the yellow is Walk Along the Sun. It's a single 70 superwash merino 30 silk. Oh, I didn't realize this was silk. That's nice. It's from Two Guys Yarn Company. I got this in the Chicago Vogue Knitting Live. I got a bunch of their yarns, and they're tweed yarn as well. And they have an Etsy store, so I'll put all that info in the show notes. It's 436 yards. The pink is Magpie Fibers, which I got in, not that you care, but maybe. I got this at Gauge Intention this December, not right before, they just closed recently, but I was in the States in December, so I wanted to check them out. This is her Swanky DK. It's 80 superwash merino, 10 cashmere, 10 nylon. The color is Shocking, and there's 250 yards. And the orange is from a stationary gnome. She's on Etsy. This is 75 superwash, 20 nylon, 5 stellina. And this colorway is called Stop an Airplane. It's really bright. It's got the gold stellina. It is so bright. Oh my God. Okay. 430 yards. And the purple is also from Stationary Nomad. Did I say gnome or nomad? It's nomad. This is 75, I wrote 72, 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon, and this is 463 yards. And this is called Purple Rain. And the green is by Be Sweet. It's skinny wool. It's a single ply, and they come in 25 gram balls, 180 yards. This is colorway sea green, and I believe it's 100% merino wool. So weird. Okay. Yeah. And then my third project is my second design I'm working on. I'm still working on the front panel. I redid my calculations the other day when I was working on it and realized that I knit 12 rows too many. So now I have to rip back and start the armhole. Here's 12 rows. So I still only have the front stockinette portion done. I'm using, here, if you wanna. I'm using the Captiva for the black, and the white stripes is Habu. I think it's called like wrapped paper or something. Silk wrapped paper, so it's actually a linen wrapped with a silk thread. And it's white with navy, but it really looks like black, so it doesn't clash when knitting with it. There is 117 yards. This item number is N94, and it's 14 grams. It's really light. And that is what I am knitting on, or knit on last week. So my two new, I think I just needed to cast on something to get it out of my system. So I probably won't work on those this coming week, but they will be kind of worked on slowly over the while. And my exploration station I'm still working on, but since the rows are getting really, really long, I don't feel the need to show you guys like a half inch of work. That took me 7 hours. So that one I may show next week. I think I'll probably show it next week. Maybe I'll be done. I probably won't be done. So moving on to spinning. I wanted to start off spinning with a slight revision in something I said last week, and it was thwacking. So I described thwacking when you kind of like beat up your yarn. So I was talking about the process of using your hands for thwacking, and I was watching Not a Podcast with Amanda, and she mentioned the term smacking, using her hands. So my revision is that when you see, I feel like thwacking is kind of the major description of it, and smacking is like a version of thwacking. Now I'm getting confused, but smacking is when you use your hands to fluff up your yarn. Thwacking is when you beat up your yarn against a hard surface. My second kind of revision, it's more of an addition, is that I described smacking now as going like this. And this is true, but I forgot to mention that you need to rotate your yarn and kind of do it at different angles to really fluff up, now fibers going everywhere, fluff up so that different areas of your yarn get smacked or Yeah. So that is my addition to thwacking, and you do the same thing with thwacking. So I think thwacking is when you take your skein when it's wet, and you like fold it in half, and then what you'll do with those two ends is this part you'll kind of beat against a hard surface. But then you're going to have to also rotate your yarn so that the area that gets beat upon changes, so that you hit like all of the circumference of your skein. Revisions and additions to last podcast. Also, I was reading in a blog post, somebody had made a comment about when they ply their yarn, they'll move their lazy Kate like 10 feet away from them so that when they're plying, the twist evens out as they're plying it from so far away. The twist will kind of move throughout the yarn when they're plying, and I thought that was kind of an interesting tip. So it's maybe just something to try if you're interested. All of the things that I talk about here, if I am getting them wrong or if you have your own tips, please comment below or comment in the spinning thread that I have in the Ravelry group. I am a new spinner, but I don't want to be that new spinner who gives out poor information. I just want to be the new spinner who gives out information. I like researching this stuff and I like talking about it, but if you have a correction or an opinion on anything that I say, please let me have it, because I don't think necessarily that there's a correct or incorrect way of doing something, but I want to use the correct terminology, and I don't want to give out bad information. But I do want to inspire people to try something new. So that's my little disclaimer on anything that I say on this podcast. As to my whips, I am still working on my Rolags from Bumblebee Acres Fiber Farm. And my turkey trot, I just need to ply my last Rolag. This, I won't show you the Bumblebee Acres ones until they're finished, because I still have a bunch of those to go, and they're looking the same from what I did the last podcast. But this one, with the turkey trot, I wanted to show you because I wanted to try and color-code it, if you will. I wanted to spin the brown with the brown, the red with the red, the white with the white, and I failed miserably, but I wanted to show you guys what I got. So this was my mistake for the week. I'm just kidding. So obviously my singles were two different lengths, and instead of starting with the white ends to make sure that the white gets put together and then the red will hopefully I started with the brown and ended up not having any of the colors match besides the brown. It's still yarn, I'm still gonna use it. My singles were too long, and instead of measuring the length of the singles before applying them together, I just went for it. And it's almost like when you don't swatch for a project and then all of a sudden your gauge is off. So the colors are off. So this lesson learned. And I still plan on trying something like this. These are from Classy Squid Fiber Co. And I have the oyster Rolags from her as well, which are like a white to black. I don't think there's too much gray in the middle, but it's a white to black Rolag. So I'm going to try the same concept with those and try a little bit harder to keep my consistency so that there is very little overlap of the white and the black colors. So I get to attempt that again. I have also been spinning my apple picking battling lumps. Here's Sky. These aren't soaked yet, but this is the Sky, which was so much fun because it had these little white chunks, and I tried to spin them like really lumpy and funky so that they stayed kind of cloud looking. There's one. That was a lot of fun. And then I also had, I finished the grass, what I'm calling grass colorway. And this also had like chunks of something. I need to learn how to distinguish fibers, but I think that one is a little bit harder. Easier said than done, I guess. But it had these chunks in here. And that's what I've been working on with spinning. I have new fiber. So I got in my order from Blaine Fleece and Fiber, BFF, from Jennifer. And I bought, this is from her farm. She has 4 sheep. She has 4 near and dear sheep to her. And she sells the fiber through Etsy, and I will put her shop in the show notes. So this is the Icelandic wool roving from her sheep called Black Velvet. And it is, I bought 8 ounces. Oh, it's so fun. I'm very excited about this purchase because this is very natural yarn, which I haven't really worked with, and I haven't worked with, I bought 2 different types, and I haven't worked with either of these breeds, so I'm very excited to work with a more natural, it's like from sheep to farm, from sheep to yarn type of experience. So, okay, so Black Velvet is 7/8 Icelandic, and the other 1/8 is Columbia Rambouillet mix. And Jennifer says that she uses both the tog and the thell, which is the outer and inner coats. I hope next episode I can go into greater detail about the 2 fibers that I got. I haven't done any research on Icelandic or anything, but I think I'm going to spin this a single ply, a chunkier single ply than what I usually try to spin fingering weight. So that is what I'm doing with this. And the other fiber I got was Hampshire and Suffolk roving, which I am now keeping in this. I've confiscated this bowl. Some people have yarn bowls, I have fiber bowls. And here is this roving. Oh, it's so squishy and soft. And she also, Jennifer says in her shop description that there's a little bit of grease left on this one. And it's so funny because you can feel it, obviously, when you're touching it. And when you're applying it, it gets kind of gummy, which almost helps with my drafting. Just adds that little, like, grease you would think is, or the lanolin, if you will, from the natural grease of the sheep. You would think it makes it slippery, but it makes it a little bit gummy, and then your hands feel super soft. Like when you're drafting, it gets kind of this gummy texture to it. And you're like, oh, now I'm gonna have sticky hands. But then when you put the fiber down, it turns into more of it just softens your skin. You don't feel that gummy stickiness anymore. There is a little bit of veggie matter in here, but it's interesting when you spin with it, it almost just kind of flies out of the fiber. Like it doesn't really get twisted in there. I'm sure that some bits kind of do, but everything that I've encountered so far, and there's not a lot, everything that I've encountered so far gets kind of skirted to the outside of the yarn, so you can easily just pick it out. So I've spun a little bit, and I won't really go into the spinning until next week, but I'm going to spin very fine and then 2-ply this one. I have 6 ounces, I think, or 4 ounces of this that I'm going to 2-ply. I get so interested to see on Instagram and other places how fine people spin. Like, it's just like a thread. So I wanted to try to spin really, really thin and then ply that. And then, so this was from the sheep Daisy, and Daisy will be joining the BFF flock in November. I thought that was really cute how Jennifer adds the little, I mean, they're her sheep, really. It's really sweet. It's very cute. And she has both of these rovings still in her store. I checked last night. Jennifer was kind enough to also add an art bat in with my order, and it is her After the Storm colorway. And she usually is inspired with her art bats of things that happen on her farm. Like, I think the art bat that's still in her shop is called Breaking the Barn Door or something like that, and it was an incident with her sheep. It's cute. I like it. But in this art bat, there's Corriedale, Icelandic, Merino, BFL, Alpaca, Soft Silk, and Tencel, Firestar, and Woolburs. And this is my first art bat, so I'm going to have to watch her videos again on how to spin it, because I don't even know what to do with this. But it's really kind of cool. It's just a huge, oh, I can open it up even more. It's a massive, just wad of fiber. So I will be figuring out how to work with this. And I have ordered some art bats from Spin City, which I will show you obviously when they come in, but I didn't know Jennifer was sending this. So this is my first attempt at an art bat. And I am very excited to work with one of those. So next episode, I will talk more about my processes with all of these and hopefully explain the sheep breeds better, because I didn't look up any of this information. I just wanted to show you my new fiber. Yeah. So here is her information, and I will put it in the show notes as well. This one is for the Daisy fiber. And I was going to, yes, that's what I wanted to mention. I was going to talk about my art yarns and show off my art yarns, but this episode is already getting long. So another reason I'm not going to show them this episode is because I just bought a book on spinning techniques, the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. It's Techniques for Creating 80 Yarns by Sarah Anderson. And I want to read more about how these art yarns were created so I can actually talk about them instead of just having like show. I would like to have show and tell with my art yarns, and since I don't know how to describe them or talk about the correct techniques, I'd like to read up on it before showing you guys. So that will come at another time when I can actually talk about what techniques were used or describe them a bit better than right now going, it's so pretty. With that, this is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope you come back next week when I talk about my whips in spinning and knitting, talk about my new fiber, and show off some more machine knitting stuff and whatever other interesting things I stumble upon in the week. thank you very much. Please go over to the Ravelry group, introduce yourself, show off what you're working with, and I will see you next week. Thanks, bye. Also, if you are sticking around for the video, I wanted to talk about it a little bit before the Israel Shuk video. I wanted to talk about it a little bit before to give you guys an idea of what a Shuk is. So the Shuk that I filmed at is called Shuk HaCarmel, and it's in Tel Aviv. And a Shuk is where it's an outdoor market for produce. You can find meat and fish there. You can find anything from like olives and spices. A lot of people do actually shop at the Shuk. It has turned into a bit of a tourist attraction, so they've grown into adding restaurants and clothing, touristy tchotchkes like keychains and stuff like that, but people still do their grocery shopping at the Shuk. This Shuk actually put in a hairdressing salon. I have a small bit of it in my video. But it's they've grown into these massive things. Shuk HaCarmel is just on it's not just on the one street, but there is one major walking street. There's no cars on this street, and it's all stalls, and behind the stalls are a brick and mortar, but most of the Shuk is just the stall parts. The other two Shuks that I've been to are Shuk HaPishmishim and Machane Yehuda. And Shuk HaPishmishim is in Jaffa, and that one is more of a flea market. They sell furniture and rugs and lighting and things of this nature. And they're more of everything's in a brick and mortar, and you kind of walk the street looking into the shops. But they have an antique-y vibe to their whole, get like an ancient Persian rug or something, it's got this old world vibe to it, but I don't think there is any produce at Shuk HaPishmishim. It's definitely set up more. And then the major part of it is actually set up like a flea market. Like it's under a, what is that, like corrugated metal sheeting, whatever. So it has an area to it, but you spread your stuff out on a blanket and people walk through type of flea market. And Machane Yehuda is in Jerusalem, and that one is massive. It's the biggest of the three that I've been to, and I think it's the one that's probably most traveled to for tourists as like a Shuk destination. That's what people know as the Shuk, and that one is huge, and it's got big restaurants, and it's just like a labyrinth in there. It's pretty crazy. But the one in Jerusalem, a couple points about that is that at nighttime, most of the stalls will close, but then a couple of bars will open. So it has like a nightlife scene at the Shuk. This just started recently as well. This isn't something that's always happened. And another recent project for Machane Yehuda is local graffiti artists got together and started painting the shutter doors with, they'll do murals of important people to Israel, to the world. They'll also do paintings of animals, and some biblical scenes. So I think they've painted over 140 shutter doors so far, and my husband found a video of that whole project, so hopefully I can put that link in the show notes if you're interested in that. Hopefully later on in the podcast I can show you videos of those other two as well. And now on to the show. So this is Shuk HaCarmel on a Friday, and the reason I say on a Friday is because it's the busiest day at the Shuk. You do not go to the Shuk on a Friday unless you are making Shabbat dinner or you are a tourist, because it is packed. I've seen grandmas throw elbows to get through the Shuk on a Friday. It's scary, quite frankly. I do have one disclaimer that this video is shaky. It's not a little bit shaky, it's a shaky video. I was walking while I took it, and this is like the first time that I've taken a video, and I didn't realize how disturbingly shaky it is. So watch at your own risk, or if shaky video affects you, please don't watch this. I will do much better in my filming. I'm more conscious of it now, let's put it that way. And so I will take better video in the future. There are a couple spots where I do stop and do a panorama, but I was walking while filming, so it shows. So yeah, thank you for watching. Here's the video of the Shuk, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Yalla, yalla, yalla.
אל תתייחס.
Mion! יאללה,